Imagine standing at the bottom of a canyon, looking up and seeing cars driving through the clouds. Now imagine the bridge they're driving on sits 565 meters above your head, higher than the tallest skyscraper in most countries. And imagine that to build the highway connecting to this bridge, China literally sliced an entire mountain in half. This is Beipanjiang Bridge, the highest bridge on planet Earth. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why none of this was actually about the bridge at all. The mountain prison. Let's travel to Guizhou Province in southwestern China. The people who live here have a saying passed down for generations: no 3 feet of level ground. They're not exaggerating. They're describing reality. More than 90% of Guizhou Province is covered in mountains and hills. No flat roads. No level fields. No easy paths between towns. The entire landscape looks like someone crumpled the earth like paper. Tourists call it the Switzerland of China because of jaw-dropping views and rich cultural heritage. But here's what nobody mentions in travel brochures. The mountains aren't just beautiful. They're a prison. For hundreds of years, the people of Guizhou lived isolated from the rest of China. Roads twisted around mountains for hours just to cover distances you could see across in minutes. Imagine looking across a canyon and seeing a town just 1 kilometer away. Now imagine it takes 2 hours of difficult mountain driving to actually get there. That was daily life. Families were separated by geography. Students couldn't access better schools in neighboring regions. Farmers couldn't get crops to market before they spoiled. Economic opportunities that existed just kilometers away might as well have been on another planet. The mountains didn't just make travel inconvenient, they trapped entire generations in poverty. The Chinese government looked at Guizhou and saw millions of people imprisoned by terrain. So they made a decision that would change everything. 32,000 bridges. Here's a number that should get your attention: 32,000. That's how many bridges China has built in Guizhou Province alone. Not in all of China, just this one province. These aren't tiny footbridges over streams. We're talking about massive structures spanning valleys and canyons, allowing people to travel in straight lines instead of winding around mountains for hours. But among these 32,000 bridges, one stands above all the rest. Literally. Beipanjiang Bridge, the highest bridge on Earth. Stand at the bottom of Beipanjiang Canyon and look up. The bridge sits 565 meters above your head. To put that in perspective, you'd have to climb to the top of China's tallest skyscraper to get this far off the ground. It's so high that clouds sometimes float beneath the roadway. The entire structure stretches 1,341 meters across the canyon. Before this bridge existed, crossing from one side to the other meant 2 hours of winding mountain roads with sharp turns and steep drops. Now, the crossing takes 60 seconds. 2 hours became 1 minute. The mountain that was in the way. But the bridge is only part of the story. To understand how far China was willing to go, you need to hear about the highway. Beipanjiang Bridge is part of an expressway connecting some of the most challenging terrain on the planet. And when engineers were planning the route, there was a problem. A massive solid mountain was in the way. Going around it would have forced the highway to twist for dozens of extra kilometers, adding hours to every journey. So China didn't go around it. They went through it. Engineers brought in explosives and massive drills. They carved a V-shaped gap right through the middle of solid rock. They split the mountain in half. The highway now runs straight through the gap where the mountain used to be whole. Think about the scale of that operation. Mountains take millions of years to form. This one was cut in half in a matter of months. The amount of rock removed could fill thousands of Olympic swimming pools. The explosives created blasts that shook nearby villages, and all of this was done with precision engineering to ensure the remaining rock walls were stable and safe. This wasn't reckless destruction. This was calculated infrastructure development at a scale most countries can't imagine. And at the end of this highway that cuts through a split mountain, you reach a bridge hanging 565 meters in the air. Building the impossible. Engineers studied the canyon 5-10 kilometers upstream and downstream, searching for the perfect location. They needed rock strong enough to anchor towers weighing thousands of tons. They needed to account for canyon walls sloping at different angles, wind patterns, earthquake risks. The final design. A cable-stayed suspension bridge stretching 1,341 meters with a main span of 720 meters. That's 720 meters of bridge deck hanging in the sky, held up only by cables. The structure uses steel and concrete, weighing tens of thousands of tons total. Now here's the challenge. All of that material needs to be assembled while hanging 565 meters above a rocky canyon floor. The world's biggest crane, Big Carl, stands 250 meters tall. You'd need to stack more than 2 Big Carls to reach the top of this canyon. China used something called a cable crane system instead. Picture a thick steel cable stretched across the canyon from one side to the other. This cable becomes an overhead runway in the sky. Workers attach bridge sections to a trolley that hangs from the cable. The trolley rolls along, carrying multi-ton pieces across the canyon to exactly where they need to go. The bridge was built outward from the center, placing sections in the middle first, then building toward both sides simultaneously to keep everything balanced. Workers used China's Beidou satellite navigation system to ensure every piece went into the perfect spot. Before construction began, engineers created detailed computer simulations of the entire structure, a virtual practice run to identify potential problems before lifting a single piece of steel. Every bolt, every weld, every connection was mapped out in advance. Fighting nature. The sloped canyon walls meant support towers needed to be different heights. The structure is asymmetrical by necessity. Cables attached to anchor points drill deep into the mountainsides at different depths because the terrain isn't uniform. But mountains don't just slope, they also move. Guizhou Province experiences earthquakes. The bridge deck weighs thousands of tons and hangs from cables like a giant pendulum. When an earthquake hits, that pendulum wants to swing. Engineers installed shock absorbers at each end to absorb movement and prevent damage. Then there's wind. Wind in a canyon doesn't behave like wind in open areas. When wind gets squeezed through a tight gap, it accelerates through something called the Venturi effect. In Beipanjiang Canyon, wind gusts reach speeds comparable to express trains. Engineers built scale models and tested them in wind tunnels. But China also used Doppler LiDAR technology, a system that shoots laser beams into the sky and measures how they reflect off moisture particles. As moisture moves with the wind, the system creates a three-dimensional real-time map of wind patterns. This allowed engineers to measure actual conditions in the canyon and design the bridge to survive. Even after opening, monitoring never stops. Engineers embedded fiber optic strands directly inside the cables. As steel stretches under load, the fiber optic strands stretch too. By shining light through the system and measuring reflections, engineers monitor the exact strain on every cable in real time, 24 hours a day. The real reason. This bridge cost hundreds of millions of dollars and took years to build. Since 2012, China has invested hundreds of billions in infrastructure in its poorest, most isolated regions. The government calls this China's war on poverty. Guizhou was one of the poorest provinces in China. Now it's connected by highways, high-speed rail, and an international airport. But Guizhou is also part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, a global strategy to create economic pathways connecting dozens of countries. China wants to demonstrate that its development model works. And that brings us to the secret purpose of Beipanjiang Bridge, the tourist trap. This bridge wasn't built just for the people of Guizhou, it was built for tourists from around the world. China wants Beipanjiang to become an international tourist destination. The bridge features observation platforms with views of the canyon. Glass walkways let tourists look straight down 565 meters to the canyon floor. Plans include extreme sports facilities, bungee jumping platforms, base jumping competitions, possibly an extreme sports complex in the canyon below. But the vision goes beyond thrill seekers. Beipanjiang is a calculated message to the world. China is demonstrating capability and willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve goals. They split a mountain in half. They built the highest bridge on Earth. They did it efficiently and on schedule. Hundreds of millions of dollars invested in infrastructure that doubles as tourist attractions. Bridges aren't just transportation anymore. They're destinations themselves. The entire world is watching China build these structures. And now the world is buying plane tickets to see them. China didn't just build a bridge. They built a statement. A statement about engineering capability, about infrastructure development at scale, about transforming isolated regions into connected economies, about turning poverty into prosperity through concrete, steel, and vision. The bridge solves the immediate problem, connecting communities separated by impossible terrain. But it also solves a deeper problem, showing the world what China can do when it commits resources to a goal. Beipanjiang Bridge is 565 meters high and 1,341 meters long. But its real measurement isn't in meters. It's in ambition and execution. And the message is clear. When China decides a mountain is in the way, the mountain loses.